Hello everyone, and welcome back. We're back tonight with more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time Renosuke and Susato arrived in England only to end up having to actually prove that they're capable of becoming a lawyer in Britain by taking a spur-of-the-moment case that we have absolutely no information on. So, and the guy is on trial for murder, so. But we did learn of a possible person that was in the carriage that wasn't known about, or wasn't said, or no one said anything about. So we'll see, and that's where we left off. We will probably be introduced to this extra passenger shortly, so let's begin. February 18th, 12:52 p.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. What on earth just happened in there? Mr. Naruhodo! I've managed to find out what happened! Miss Susato. I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. A type of exploding device that releases smoke. A smoke grenade? It sounds like the sort of thing ninjas use. They're just making sure everyone is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. A young girl? Then could it be the other passenger that Mr. McGilded was just talking about? My thoughts exactly. So he wasn't lying. Oh, what's become of Mr. McGilded, actually? There are so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's another matter that's troubling me. What's that? The 20 pence. Okay. Oh, according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. But now it seems there were in fact 5 passengers. Which means the figures don't seem to add up again. She's right, that is strange. Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go in straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. I really can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. We'll know soon enough, Miss Susato. Yes! February 18th, 1 o'clock p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Okay. There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look. She must have been the one who caused the disturbance before. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks.
My lord?
I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled proceedings earlier.
It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade of this sort, typically employed by the army.
Good gracious! The army? What in the devil's name?
It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak or escape from the public gallery. But she was caught. And now occupies the stand.
Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced such pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior?
If I may, my lord.
Yes, Mr. McGilded?
I think perhaps I ought to explain here. Why it is this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that. 'Tis all tied up with the events of that night, so it is.
Very well, Mr. McGilded. Give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case. Just what did happen that night? It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything.
The young girl. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then, begorra! A loud thud and a wee scream woke me up with a fast start. There was a fellow collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me. Then I turned to find out where that scream had come from, and bless my soul, what did I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away.
Okay. I remain somewhat baffled, I confess, but from what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in the omnibus. Is that correct?
'Tis exactly as the defense counsel said. This last was the 5th passenger, my lord.
Very well. The defense may now cross-examine the witnesses. Are you ready, counsel?
Yes, my lord.
Or rather, no. I have no idea where to start. When you first got into the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board?
There were not. The cabin was empty, and there was no one on the roof deck either.
You were the first passenger, as it were. I see.
Aye, and that's why I took the back side as I did. It is the most comfortable, so it is.
Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat?
By all means, 'tis how you already described it earlier. I am talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman who was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, 'tis the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well.
Hold it! A loud thud, you say? And a scream?
Aye, that's it. How can I explain it? It was like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise.
So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor, having been stabbed?
Well now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. and when the sound woke me and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fella on the floor.
You didn't see anyone. But at the same moment, you did hear a scream? Ah, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume?
Not above me, no, my lord. 'Twas from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before my eyes.
Hold it!
You sat him up? The victim, you mean?
That I did, on the sit across from me, as I said. I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor now, would you? 'Tis common courtesy, so it is.
I find that a little hard to believe.
Ah, Lord Van Zieks! Oh, now why would that be?
You wake to find a man lying at your feet in a carriage, and a normal person would hire the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is.
Well now, as you know, I'm in something of a special line of business.
The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest?
Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer them, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, were it all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble.
Are you suggesting we were just going to leave the man? Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there?
Heaven alive, no. I was always intending to report it, so I was. Only, I had a mind to find out the whys and wherefores first.
The whys and wherefores?
Right you are. There were some details I want to understand before anyone else got to meddling. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same?
Yes. The scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing.
Hold it!
I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim.
So I did, sir. So I did. As far as I could see, that is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, now, 'tis a queer thing. A wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside.
Good gracious! Under your backside?
And when I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there was a wee cubbyhole there for storage.
Mr. Naruto, we examined the omnibus ourselves, remember?
Yes, of course. The whole bus was submitted as evidence.
This would be a very good time to have a thorough look around inside. Well, let's...
say she was hiding herself?
Aye, that's right. 'Twas hard to see in the dim lamplight, but she was all curled up in a wee ball, and when eyes met, well, my heart nearly started beating in my chest.
Yeah, you're really overacting this.
Still and all, I pulled her out from under there, and sat her on the seat opposite so I would have a wee chin wag with her.
The seat opposite.
That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there.
You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir?
Well, as I'm sure I mentioned. A gentleman in my possession can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I needed to find out just who this surgeon was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream. A fella's voice.
Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats.
Right here again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with the knife in his belly. Okay, just a sec.
Okay, let's see, let me check the history. Okay,
Looking down through the skylight, you must have seen this young girl and a gentleman with a knife in his belly.
in other words, the previous witnesses did not, in fact, see you at all, Mr. McGilded. What they believed to be yourself and the victim was, in fact, this girl and the late Mr. Mason?
Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sat at the back of the carriage out of sight.
It is certainly plausible. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused perhaps with this young girl.
At that, of course. With a scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses.
Thank you, I've heard enough. The events as explained are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl?
Her name is Jenna Lestrade, my lord.
Lestrade, huh?
She is a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket.
What? This girl here? A petty thief? Horror! Horror! Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question. Wow. How dare you! What is the meaning of this? Ah, not a... Ah! The girl, she's gone!
Open your eyes! Open your eyes! I'm all here.
Good gracious, how? What was the point of that little sidestep?
I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are the same. This dirty little dipper, you'll say, slipped up and got caught on the job. She got herself backed into a corner, so she knifed a gent. Go on! That's what's in your heads, ain't it?
No, not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth, not
Look, nice are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do at least is his fingers. I'm a professional, alright. Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do.
Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs?
Oh, this? Yeah, this is in a bag I lifted the other day. Down where they keep the four-wheel drags. It's nice, isn't it? I like the pink best.
Ah! Do not wave that thing in my direction again!
So, you admit that you were right in the omnibus on the night in question. Tis alright, lass. You can tell them the truth now. Alright, yeah. It's just like the Irishman said.
The court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. You will tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus on the night in question.
Alright, if I have to.
What the girl saw.
So I snuck inside the carriage before they looked up the horses, just like always. But it was a rightful waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles that night. I'll tell ya, you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. Then after a while, I heard the start bang. Nearly jumped out of my skin, I did. And the scream just came out. It's because of that this swell found me. He did help me get away, mind.
Yes, he let you go. I fail to understand why you would let the street urchin go, Mr. McGilded.
Oh, 'tis simplicity itself, my lord.
You see, she couldn't possibly have killed the other passenger. I knew that for a fact. How?
As I'm sure I said before, sir. I was sitting right on top of the place where she is hiding herself. I think a demonstration is called for.
Oh, that was the judge, sorry.
This is where I sat that night. And the cubbyhole
of which you have spoken is underneath the seat, I presume? Yes. It does appear just large enough to accommodate someone of the girl's stature.
Aye, but of course the wee lass was stuck in there. Because I'd parked myself on the seat for the duration.
Ah!
So you see, that's why I let the last bolt. I knew that if the police found her there, they'd automatically assume she'd done it. But I couldn't live with myself if a young life was ruined when all at the time I knew she was innocent.
Even though you must have realized your action would result in your own innocence being called into question?
Not at all, my lord, not at all. I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt on my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass.
My goodness! My goodness!
What a perfect gentleman!
My lord! This fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed of myself for ever down you, sir.
Okay.
With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time.
Okay.
Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury consensual in their leaning to a verdict of not guilty?
Mr. Naruhodo, this... well, it must mean...
It must mean what?
that we're victorious!
We've won? Are you sure?
I don't know, it seems a little too fast.
Objection!
Yep.
Is the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offense, pray do... Sorry, that's the wrong accent. If the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, pray do forgive the discourtesy. This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices. Where evidence and reasoning should be paramount, emotion rules the day. Emotion? The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature. What do you mean, his true nature? Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission? After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in their investigation. The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It's noted in black and white here in the police report. Good lord! The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. McGilder's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. What?! Horror! Horror! How could such a devious contrivance possibly have been effected, counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Nippon friend? Me? When the carriage was submitted as evidence, doubtless you examined it in fine detail, as would any self-respecting practitioner of the law. Pray, what did you find the condition of the underseat compartment to be? Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman would be able to clear this up in a jiffy. Sorry? Go ahead, you tell us the court now, fella. How this all is an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Sykes. Well, counsel, do you have anything to say, something to say on this matter? How am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of that little compartment under the seat in the omnibus?
Yeah, it was empty, because we did look in it.
Yes, I'm fairly sure it was empty. But what else can I say?
As I suspected. It seems, my lord, that this Eastern initiate has the scruples of a by-street wine merchant.
Mr. Naruhodo!
Perfect, 'tis why the fellow has represented me at all. He knows just what to say, does he not? Well, no, it would seem the argument is moot. And the truth of the matter is there for you so to see after all. That there cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart it is. That there cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is.
That we can be sure of at least. Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here? I should like the jury to weigh in on this matter, I think. That compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth run of the carriage. The guild's rules state that omnibuses should be properly and fully equipped at all times. So it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fleecer and the pickparts are lying. Oh boy. Ah!
I can't believe I can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich always stinkers. Nothing but cowards, a lot of them.
What? Oh no.
It's a trick! Of course it's a trick!
Quite so. I must concur here. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time.
Yes, but every time a different truth, it seems.
My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly, a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate.
Thank you, counsel. Before we proceed any further, there is the matter of the outstanding cross-examination. Counsel for the defense, begin your question of the witness, please.
Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Bailey is at work, it would seem.
Hi, Luna. How goes the trial?
Well, as you can see, we have another witness who was apparently, who apparently was in the, trunk under the seat that, the defendant was sitting on at the time. And apparently she's a skilled pickpocket. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job explaining myself tonight. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out what to... I'm looking over the evidence again. Okay,
Hold it!
So you were already in the omnibus before it even set off on its run?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the point of spending a Joey to make a few bob, eh? That's a rum idea, isn't it?
I suppose she means there's no point spending money to beg money. It actually makes sense. Looking over all your evidence is a good idea in general. Yeah, but I'm not sure any of what I have right now applies to this. Let's see. Gives the cause of death as internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab wound. A photograph of the victim taken on the omnibus. The knife in his abdomen is clearly visible, but his face is partly obscured from view by an old crooked hat. The leather gloves the defendant was wearing at the time of the incident is a blood stain. The 8-seater omnibus that was the scene of the crime, there were passengers both inside the carriage and on the roof deck that night. A largish knife that was found lodged in the victim's abdomen, its quality and fancy ornamentation suggests it must be quite valuable. Among the defendant's list of debtors is Bruce Fairplay, who would have been due to repay his loan imminently. Ayesa Noza felt you need to spend money to make money and eat lunch. Yep. Counsel, may I remind you that this girl is a petty thief. Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, that does clear up the little mystery of the fares and all. 4 paying passengers at 5 pence apiece, making the 20 to which the cabman testified. And the Lord let us scapegrace riding for free.
The red conk of a driver always goes some grub before his last run, see? That's when I slip into the carriage and get myself hidden under the seat. Nice and easy, right?
But your hidden place is a storage compartment, full of equipment for the coach, no?
Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always check all that out and cram it in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much.
And yet, according to the report filed by the police officer who first arrived at the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia.
Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, last time I moved all that stuff out so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell ya.
It seems we reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue.
Hold it!
A waste of time? Why is that?
Well, most nights I'm on my own in the God permit at least some of the time.
I beg your pardon? Did you say God permit?
Oh yeah, well that's what my kind call it. You see the omnibus, I suppose. The point is, at any normal run, the carriage ain't got one in it for a while.
And that's when you came out of your hiding place and get away?
That's it, only that night. This cove was sat on me still from the start. And he didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch. I was totally shocked. I was totally stuck.
You mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time while events unfolded in the enclosed cabby?
Yeah, right, mister?
To be sure. As short as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion you've been sat on to invite a child now, do you? So this Miss Lestrade couldn't possibly be the culprit then. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, something I should point out. I really don't know the full history of this girl's family name, Lestrade. Only reason it didn't ring any chord with me is because I played the game Papers, Please, and there's a criminal that you can catch going through the checkpoint that's named Vince Lestrade. So yeah, like I said, I don't know the full history of the family name, but it still holds a little significance to me. But if anyone knows the full history, you can tell me in chat. Anyway, let's continue. Wait, go back. I didn't press that statement.
Hold it!
So you couldn't see out into the cabin at all?
Not a shot. Most days I push the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle.
I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher.
I mean, I can have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other ones see. So most of the time, the passengers plant themselves opposite. But for some reason, that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head.
And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out. I see.
Truth is, I ain't too happy in small dark places. Feels too much like being thrown in the clink. But it's the only place to hide in them carriages, so it's Obson's choice.
Why doesn't she just stick to picking people's pockets in the open then? I'd say there's some reason that she's not letting on, judging from her demeanor.
So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had to just stick it out under there. Nothing else for it. Then after a while...
Hold it!
When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor?
Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember so well. Point is, it made me jump.
And you let out a scream involuntarily?
That's right. And then I felt the cushion over me head get lighter all of a sudden.
Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yes. Or not.
It could equally have been some moments the accused stood in order to stop his victim, could it not?
Well, girl, did you see what happened at that crucial moment?
Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and had a quick butchers while I had the chance, didn't I? The Irishman was sitting up the bloke what had fallen on the floor on the seat opposite. That matches Mr. McGilden's account, of course. But then, the fella suddenly turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late by then. I should never have finished looking.
Hold it!
And when Mr. McGilda discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place?
I was scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me down on the seat and all.
Next to the victim, Mr. Mason?
Yeah, the bloke got a knife in his guts. He was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit, and he ended up falling onto me. Ugh, how awful. Both me hands got covered in blood. It made me feel sick as a dog.
Oh. Hang on a minute. Well, okay, I'm not sure how to... Anyway. Both her hands covered in blood. That must be what the rooftop passengers saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilded for a while. Is that correct?
He asked me some stuff. Wanted to know my name and what I was up to and all and that. Then I heard something up above. From above, someone screamed.
Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck, one would presume.
Well, I didn't want no one seeing me face, so I didn't look up. Then the horses were drawn up smartish, and this here Ashman says to me...
In some versions of the story, Lestrade was a member of Scotland Yard, who was assigned to the same cases Sherlock picked up, and subsequently comes off as incompetent / too slow, since Sherlock solves them first. Oh, okay.
Get back under the seat. I'd say that you get away later. All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent.
For one brief shiny moment, yes.
It's clear that they are all still very unsure. If we could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony, I'm sure we would clinch the verdict we want.
Yes, I think you're right. And I have this niggling feeling. Something's bothering me, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. Well, I've been through everything, and I don't know. Let's see, so I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always. Okay, I don't think that's important right now.
What is the run?
I did press every statement, right? Oh, wait a minute. Let me check something. Wait a minute. Well, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on here. Wait, internal hemorrhaging. Internal hemorrhaging. Still bleeding. I didn't want no one seeing my face, so I didn't look up. Yeah, like I said, I have no idea. There's nothing here that I can make out. I'm sorry. This is the only thing that's bothering me, but I... Wait a minute. Yeah, neither can I. So it's done. Okay, nope. So yeah, I have no idea. Let me try pressing each statement again, I guess.
Hold it!
Well, that does clear up the little mystery of the fairs and all. driving. Well, like I said, I have no idea. I don't know what to do here.
Hold it!
Point is, any normal in the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while.
Hold it! no.
Oh, hello. Okay, now we got something.
Excuse me.
Did I miss this before, or did he just now react? Anyway, is something wrong, Mr. McGilded?
Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter, Counsel?
I'm just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself.
Oh, no. 'Twas nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad, shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, so it was.
I see. Yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm so scared of the dark now. Okay, good to know.
Aye, and I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you hear seem that much louder as well.
Yeah. I suppose it does. Maybe.
Miss Lestrade! Did you hear something that night? Anything? An unusual noise, perhaps?
Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring.
Bizarre, but there's no need to tell the whole world to me foibles, you little scamp.
What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue.
Yes. What should we make of that last statement of hers?
Well, we have nothing else to go on, so...
My lord! I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important.
Profoundly important, but all she said was that she heard nothing.
Yes, which is the profoundly important point. I'm almost sure of it.
I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern mind, Counsel. Nevertheless...
Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please.
What? Supplement? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. Well, it won't work on me.
That's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move.
Hold it!
So, you were strained to hear what was happening the entire time? Since the moment you hid yourself?
Not exactly, no.
Sorry?
Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a butcher's to see what was what. But then, when I saw the swerve getting on, I got me head down so he didn't notice me.
And Mr. McGill sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct?
Yeah, but you're Adam and Eve a day. What a mug!
What? Okay, forget it.
And so then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But would he? Not likely. Even though we were stopped in here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving his pigs to market, snoring like an old dog he was.
Are there any conclusions you can draw from that, I wonder? So it's just... Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? Well, I guess, I don't know, just a minute. I'll go ahead and save here real quick, just in case. I don't know what to, because I'm still not quite sure what to do here. Well, all that all seems to make sense. You took your time reaching that conclusion, Council. What was that from Vinceeks? Is he laughing? Very well then. Continue with the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Will you say aloud? Well, Dracula just suggested something was wrong. Yeah. But I don't know what. See you laughing.
Hold it!
Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts.
Ah!
At odds? Are you sure, man? Absolutely.
It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared.
Some Vinceeks realized it too. Well, glad you two did, because I still don't quite understand what's going on. Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least. Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court. According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGildett's snoring. But think, Renowski, think. There's something else she should have heard. Show a piece of evidence, show a person, or forget it. There's something else she should have heard. Trying to remember who it was that was yelling. Was it Bruce or was it Lady? Was it first? Let's see if I get this right. Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate on a particular sound that Miss Lestrade could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person. Okay, hope I'm right.
Take that!
Okay, nope, it wasn't him.
Yeah, it might have been him instead.
Take that!
Nope. I don't know then. Can't. I guess I'm just no good at these games. I thought I was doing pretty well at first, but now I don't know what to do. Are you asking for help or the answer? I don't know. I mean, I know I shouldn't ask for anyone to help me, but I don't know. Because none of this makes any sense, and I guess I can't remember anything from the case. I'm sorry. I'm just getting frustrated that I don't know what I'm doing wrong, what to do. Because to me, none of this makes any noise. So it had to have been a person, but I guess it wasn't. There are only so many people in the carriage, yeah, and I've already gone through the two that I thought... Who is in there? Well... Oh gosh, yeah, okay, I'm an idiot. She was the one... Oh gosh. Wait a minute. There's something else you should have heard. I guess I didn't think about hearing herself. Because obviously... I don't think... Because obviously he didn't scream. He woke up to a scream. So... Well, here goes. This is my last chance.
Take that!
Who could possibly scream? Well, I don't know then. I just don't know. Oh, I know. Gosh. Yeah, okay. What did I pick here? It doesn't add up. Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying now, Soup. So yeah, I'm being dumb. I'm sorry.
Take that!
Again, I'm sorry. I just feel so stupid with this game sometimes. Hey Dragoon, welcome to stream. How you doing tonight? I'm glad you got burgers for dinner. I'm kidding. I've been in the mood for one myself, but it's been too... We were in a heat wave this week, so it's been too hot for me to walk at the time I would go to get lunch or dinner. I have to go early. Alright, let's continue. Thrice fired, Mason? Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear. Yeah, I biked today, checked out a few shops. That's cool. What kind of shops? Oh, game shops. Okay, did you find anything good? It was that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. A couple games I am sure of. Oh, okay. What are they? Order! Order! Explain your reasoning, counsel! Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on board the omnibus, is that correct?
Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I?
And the next person aboard the omnibus was Mr. McGilded? The main one being a PS4 game called Maneater. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I've heard of that one. Let me see if that's the game I'm thinking of. Let's see. Yeah, that's the one. That's what I was thinking of. So you're thinking about getting that game, maybe, Dragoon? I'm debating it. All right, how much was it? Just out of curiosity. That it was, not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least, not in plain sight. So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at the time? Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Through the crack under the seat cushion. He was on his own for sure.
And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time, did you not hear the door opening or closing at all?
Nah, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't it? Waiting for this swell to leave.
In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? Oh! We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts.
Ah!
Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zeeks? Yes. He knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrade's statement. It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient and truths, nothing more.
He's dead right. How could the victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. And this girl's a pickpocket. Let's not forget that.
Oh, come on. She didn't even say anything.
I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways. But I must say, I can't abide liars.
Neither could I. Mr. Foreman, I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways. But I must say, I cannot abide liars.
Oh boy. Mr. Naruhodo, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty.
Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. It was a considerable troubles you have spared me.
I know I can't keep his accent straight. What I was trying to do was a Transylvanian accent, and instead I feel like it comes out sounding like some French accent, which definitely doesn't work for this character. $20. Yeah, not bad. It just depends on if you think it's worth it.
Yes, very refreshing. Ah!
God, what are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for, you useless Eastern Abaddon? Oh well, now that wasn't necessary. Although I don't know what the heck that last word means. Just a sec.
Okay. This carnage, it's perfect. Juror number 2 is the only one left.
Mr. Naruhodo, the way this is going...
I know. If we can't find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilded's innocence, the judge will rule and we'll have lost.
I very much want to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen. But those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, If we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on this whole case.
What are you saying?
Console!
I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean?
Counsel, I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my adjudication. Explain yourself at once.
When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not had open in a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand.
And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage.
If these petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus?
There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage.
Okay, yeah. Just had to be sure the second option wasn't. He was put there after he died. This is what I'm leaning towards. So we'll see if I'm right or not.
Obviously, the victim must have been placed in the carriage after he was killed.
Objection!
Tell me, my learned friend, what was the function of that obviously in your last sentence?
Well said, Lord Van Zeeks. The obviously is trolling me also. No! That's really not the point. The point is that the victim must have been moved into the carriage afterwards.
Then answer me this. How could a cadaver have been placed inside a moving carriage?
Well, obviously, I shall have to penalize the defense heavily for this irrelevant rambling.
Okay.
I must learn to ramble more relevantly.
The penalty is evidently not heavy enough, judging from those Nipponese eyes. So I ask you again. If these petty thief's words are to be Okay. Well, now to go with my original idea. I was actually thinking of saying the first choice. Because there's another hint. Actually, hang on a minute. There's another choice. I gotta make sure that's... Yeah, no. Nope. Wait a minute. Oh. Okay, now I get it.
If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
Objection!
I wondered what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other only has only windows. Fixed windows which cannot possibly open. In short, there is no entrance to the cabin other than the door.
Objection!
But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered.
Oh, really?
Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin. Alright, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here's the omnibus on which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim entered the cabin? Is that what this thing's supposed to be? Is the skylight? Well, here goes.
Take that!
The answer is obvious. It could only have been the skylight. I say, the skylight?
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal. Gosh, dang it. It's almost 6 o'clock. Stop with the scam calls already. Anyway, your ludicrous proposal almost has me lost for words. However,
Objection!
the skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through.
Objection!
So you claim, but do you have a shred of evidence to support your out-of-brain theory? Both Mr. McGilded and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Yes, which has already been explained, as the sound of the victim falling from his seat, having been assaulted with a dagger. Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witnesses described? A noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact. Good gracious! Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it.
Objection!
You are now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin. That's simply impossible. How can you be so sure? Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Well, yes, that's true, but...
But the humble fella, make a wee comment here.
Mr. McGilded?
To be sure now, the two fellas who were sat on the roof that testified afore said nothing of the victim falling into the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that it's not so much a case of them not seeing, but... Aye. Tis a case of them being unable to say.
What?
I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would you not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Humph!
Oh my goodness, surely not.
Those two chaps on the roof? You mean the ones who stuck that knife in the man were... Ah! Oh, hi. Welcome back. Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blatherer?
You rotter, he said. You rotter. What are you insinuating?
Okay. This is a flaming outrage. I have a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute.
He'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said. And so will I. Mr. Fairplay! You're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker. And me, a very angry hatter. Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts, it's a disgrace, it's scandalous, it's... Ugh! I protest in the strongest possible terms. That's right, I protest too. About you rotten scoundrel. Oh boy. Order! 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 This is not the time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Return to the anteroom at once. But this is beyond reason, my lord. Ah, it's outrageous. It's very hurtful, you know. My lord, if I may comment. Go ahead, Lord Van Zeeks. It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I never intended to. It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You propose to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimidated their criminal guilt. In our British courts of law, that is what is termed a baseless accusation. I know I was rash to put this idea forward without any actual evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify! I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on the fella. What? Which one? We have to see this matter through now, one way or another.
If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once. What's happening, Mr. Naruhodo?
The spectators in the public gallery they're in a complete frenzy. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You will take the stand again and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought by the defense. Yes, my lord.
I didn't come here for this.
There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward.
Alright. Refuting the accusation.
We were the other two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear to that.
If anything had happened while we were sitting, don't you think one or the other of us would have noticed?
In any case, neither of us could know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man.
The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. We couldn't possibly have opened it.
If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof? I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witness could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith. That's right, you see?
We're innocent, I tell you. Although, logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you were in collusion with one another.
What?
Eh?
According to investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings. Huh, well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich. Something doesn't feel right here. The trial is going in our favor, really. So why do I feel so uneasy? counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please.
Oh, yes, my lord.
We were the only two people on... Oh, yeah, I don't need to.
Hold it!
So at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb up to join you on the roof deck?
Absolutely not, Dickon!
Just a sec.
No question about it, he said. None at all.
Oh, but yes, of course. I remember seeing them both.
I saw the victim inside the enclosed cabin talking with this man here.
Is this true, Mr. McGilded?
Dear me, my lord. At the risk of repeating myself, I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off inside almost immediately.
That's not why I lie. Without doubt, you were engaged in...
Let me stop you there, fella, and ask, do you have any evidence at all, It is all about evidence in the courts these days, so it is. You do well to remember that.
Ah, I saw you with my own eyes! This is going so well.
If anything had happened where we were sitting.
Hold it!
Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. It would certainly have been quite dark. Perhaps too dark to see clearly.
Is this some kind of lock? Is this some kind of joke, he said? Is that what this is?
Or perhaps one or the other of you fell asleep briefly?
Are you fair dinkum, sir? Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. It's impossible, I tell you.
I'd give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep in that bitter cold.
If you did manage it, your eyelids would freeze shut and you'd never open them again.
That's extreme.
It was extreme, I tell you. It was extreme, I tell you. And we had to put up with it because this man had locked the door. Any true gent would have unlocked it and let me in when I knocked.
I'm dreadfully sorry about that.
I'm dreadfully sorry. Oh gosh, dang it. I'm dreadfully sorry about that young fella. But you see, I was away with the fairies and I didn't hear you at all. That's a lie. I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. No, it was a cold night, so it was. People do be seeing things that aren't real in the cold. It is hardly surprising. Seeing things?
I believe we have reached an impasse here on this particular point.
Oh, you! Don't take it personally now, lad. If I'm a suspect in this case, then it is only fair that you and the other fiend are too. Open and free competition is what a capitalist society is all about. This isn't a competition I should like to be involved in, really.
Hold it!
So, you had never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before?
Let me know. Not once. Never. He had never met the man before, he said. Never.
And you, Mr. First, had no prior dealings with the victim either?
Yes, I, sir. I just don't have much to do with brickmakers, to be perfectly honest, sir.
No, I imagine not. You see? How many different ways can I put this? Neither of us have the remotest connection to the gentlemen who were inside the cabin.
Excuse me.
Mr. McGilded?
Yes, Counsel. What can I be doing you for?
Did the witness' last statement give you pause for thought somehow?
Not the remotest connection? Is that right? No, I wonder.
What are you insinuating now?
Ah, Mr. Fairplay. It has been too long, so it has.
Eh?
If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is it not? Your payment date.
I beg your pardon?
You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir.
At an unconscionable rate of interest. You tricked me. It's extortion.
Well, no. Is that a touch of begrudgery? Is it the sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass his cards off on another?
Arr!
And young Mr. First? Me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You do be making hearts for a living, do you not? That there top hat gliding about on your head, is that one of your own creations, is it? Oh, well, I'm still just an apprentice, you understand. I'm learning to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks through the door. The perfect fit, is it? It is a very distinctive design, so it is. Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch. Customers such as the thrice-fired Mason. There was a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence before my lord.
This you mean?
I can't help but thinking that the poor fellow's hat looks distinctly familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh! That's one of my hats. Aye, that it is. So it does seem the bakemaker was a customer of yours. The sort of customer, I'd wager, you could have had a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh no, sir. Absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. It wouldn't be right to say that the two fellas here haven't the remotest connection to the victim, you see. I rest my case.
You little weasel. Urgh! He's better at this than I am.
Gosh, Mr. McGilded has certainly been thorough in his research, hasn't he? Please don't let my little interruption hold up the proceedings.
Trophy earned Hat Hunter. For having identified the milliner responsible for the victim's hat in episode 3 of the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Okay.
The skylight was shut in tight.
Hold it!
Are you quite certain about that? The skylight was shut the entire time?
I'm going to lose my block with you in a minute. He's going to lose his rock with you in a minute. That's what he said.
Take a look for yourself. Go on.
You see, it's shut fast now, just like it was on the night.
So it is. Of course, the fella that size of Mr. Mason will likely break right through it, still and all.
What?
Just looking at the size of the thing, you understand?
Ah, you hold on there a minute, sir. The size of the thing means nothing. Not on its own. Let's consider the bigger picture here, shall we?
Let's stop biting our cane, shall we?
I was riding the omnibus on another occasion when, well, I broke wind, loudly. I shot myself with it as it happens.
This is an unexpected confession, Mr. First.
I assume it has a point. Oh, I just meant to say, well, the point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see. But, just my luck, I couldn't make it budge. The stench was terrible. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir. I went as red as rouge, I did.
Are you expecting me to send you?
Oh, no, sir. The point is, the skylight can't be opened. I tried and tried when I was inside the cabinet of that cabinet of shame. Hello, you finally have something to say?
Excuse me.
Although I think I already have an idea what it's about. Do you have something to say about that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade!
It opens. The skylight. This is what we're talking about, right?
Oh, forgot about that thing.
All them skylights open, dead easy.
More easily than you can load that weapon.
That's a lie, I tell you. Otherwise, when I broke wind, You can't do it from inside, you mug.
Oh.
Look, a few weeks ago, I was up on the roof deck of one of them drags. And I did out a great haul. I mean, I had pastors coming out me ears.
Miss Lestrade, this is not the forum to be eulogizing on the subject of your criminal activities.
Well, anyway, I had a bit of a scare. When I lifted the last bloke's purse, he got wise to me. All four of them surrounded me, so I couldn't drop off the bus and leg it. So what I did was I used the skylight, opened the catch, and jumped right through.
What?
Yeah, the catch for them skylights is on the top side. That's why you can't open them from the cabin.
The skylight opens from the roof deck? Bailiff! Climb up onto the roof of the omnibus at once and verify this witness's claims. Yep, I was wondering when we would get to this. Oh! Oh, my heart! What?
See.
Order! 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 So, it appears that this street girl's statement is quite true. I don't believe it. The skylight opens, and from the roof deck.
Mr. Naruhodo! This could be the clue we've been looking for!
Well, counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. So the skylight opens. Perhaps I should investigate for myself. Really? Alright. So the skylight was fastened shut before.
But now the catch has been undone, we should be able to open it.
You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure.
Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly.
That's not good for us. Oh, is that all I was supposed to do? Hang on a minute. Okay. Maybe I need to go inside.
Is something wrong?
Oh, it's just, well, this blood stain is so obvious, that's all. Well, okay, I guess that's it. Guess that's all we can do from here? Oh, wait a minute, hello.
Yes, it does open very wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo.
Why someone like me?
Ah!
Well, what is it?
Look! Just here! Look at this!
That's without question.
It's blood!
Why would there be a blood stain there?
Surely, it can't be unrelated to the case, can it? The details of the omnibus have been updated in the court record.
Okay, now we're good. Let's see what the updated says.
The scene of the crime, there is a bloodstain visible on the frame of the skylight when it's open.
Anyway. Oh. Okay, hang on a second.
Objection!
On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach. And immediately afterwards, the victim's body was pushed through the skylight into the cabin below. Those are the facts, and their irrefutable proof remains clearly visible in the omnibus that stands before us today in this very courtroom. What? That's utter humbug! Ugh! You can't possibly have any evidence! I'm sorry, I don't understand. I mean, I understand why he's doing it, but it's kind of weird. Anyway, no you can't. I mean, we didn't do it, I tell you. It's impossible. Irrefutable proof here in this courtroom. Counsel? My lord. I believe everyone would appreciate a little clarification here. Where exactly within the omnibus is this evidence to which you allude? You will point out what it is that proves the victim fell through the roof deck, from the roof deck through the skylight. Oh boy. Alright. Here we go again.
Got it!
By Jupiter, is that blood? Ugh. This bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open. What? And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening. Oh my! And so it follows that Mr. McGilded, who is inside the enclosed cabin himself at the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime. No! Order! Order! Order!
Hold it!
But the blood could have sprayed up there when the fellow was stabbed inside the cabin. Are you serious?
It only found its way to that one particular spot on the skylight. Sure, and that would have been very convenient. And let's keep it in mind that the skylight catch can only be unfastened from the roof deck. I myself wouldn't have been able to open it now, would I?
But...
There's no way to know for certain, is there? If the gent really fell through the skylight, I mean. Why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. First?
Okay, finally, we're getting to that.
'Tis all too plain if you see. There's the aftermath that shows the poor fella dropped from a fair height right there, so it is...
What? No!
But it can't be. It's all lies!
Hold it!
My fellow jury members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can we?
I believe we can, yes, sir. It's clear to me now where the filthy rubbish can be found in this courtroom.
So, they thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, did they? Juror number 4 would have a future as a stenographer. Maybe she should be that. Maybe that's what she should be doing instead of being a juror. Okay, I know how jurors are picked, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I won't tolerate any of the guild's carriages being soiled with blood. I won't tolerate it.
Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing.
If you say so. On 3 then. Everyone. 1, 2, 3!
Objection!
Oh, come on! A chilling performance, Mr. McGill.
Oh, and what would you be referring to there now, Lord Van Zieks?
A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight. Such evidence is null and void. What? Why?
For one extremely simple reason.
That smear of blood never existed.
What?
Wait, whoa, what is he talking about?
Objection!
What the hell is he talking about? Yeah, what are you talking about? It's there for all to see, and it's clearly blood.
Objection!
I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can state with absolute surety, no such mere blood existed in the carriage. At least, not until this child began.
But... Are you suggesting, Lord Van Zieks, that this stain of blood was...
Fabricated, my lord? Yes. And while this court has been in session.
What?!
Oh my gosh, okay, this is getting ridiculous now. What a palaver. I must say I didn't expect such crude reasoning from a prosecutor of your standing, Lord Van Zieks. But I'm Magnus McGilded, a fellow known all over the capital for his fine contributions to public life. I don't take kindly to slander, and I'll fight it to the bitter end. Even if it's rolling off the tip of the Reaper or the Bailey. Mr. McGilded, I realize that this is your first appearance in court as the accused. However, I am well aware of your involvement behind the scenes in a great many affairs of dubious nature. You're very adept when it comes to avoiding getting your own hands dirty. And each time it happens that a case you're involved in is investigated, you adopt the facts.
Adopt the facts? What does that even mean?
When you wield a fortune the size of Mr. McGilded's, however ill-gotten it may be, nothing is impossible. Tampering with evidence, manipulating the scene of a crime, bribing witnesses. I trust your ability to concoct the most convenient of stories, sir. To tut Lord Van Zieks, this would not do, to be sure. Will it now, Consul?
Oh, no!
I think it's fair to say this does all sound like a rather far-fetched excuse by a desperate man. The blood on the skylight didn't exist, you say? But if you saw, well, I'll cast your minds back. It is not true that the omnibus there has been decluttered. Is it not true that the omnibus there has been decluttered the entire time? How could anyone possibly have put a smear of blood in it without the world and his wife seeing? Isn't that right now, Consul?
It's true. The omnibus has been in full view the entire time that court has been in session. Except when we had to leave because of Gina's smoke bomb.
I learned friend. Here's to hearing your opinion on this matter in your own words.
As you wish. Could someone have tampered with the omnibus during this trial? If you're asking me, I think. I'm sorry, but it could have been possible. As a defense lawyer, it's my job to advocate for the defendant as best I can. But still, I feel as though there's something even more important at stake here. There's no evidence to suggest the defendant did as my learned friends suggest. However, in terms of having the opportunity to carry out the alleged tampering, there is one possibility.
Oh!
Good gracious! Explain yourself, counsel! Yes, there is. It seems my learned Nipponese friend has no intention of running from this deceit. Deceit? I'm sure everyone still remembers clearly the recess that we were forced to take as a result of the smoke grenade fired by the witness clearly in the stand, Miss Gina Lestrade. What's going on?
Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face.
Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. The courtroom was filled with smoke, and everyone was thrown into confusion. All of us were made to leave this chamber. In that brief interval, under the veil of smoke and in all the chaos, it could have been possible to steal inside the omnibus.
Are you wise? What are you trying to pull, you rotten feckless gouger?
Feckless gouger?
You're supposed to be defending me. 'Tis a wicked plot. 'Tis a plot to undermine me, so it is.
Objection!
Whatever you think this is, it changes nothing. The facts are the same. After this court was evacuated earlier as a result of the smoke grenade, a number of inconsistencies materialized in relation to the omnibus. Inconsistencies such as... To start with, the storage compartment underneath the rear passenger seat. When the police investigated the omnibus, its compartment was full of the driver's items. Secondly, we have the smear of blood on the edge of the skylight. As I have said, that was not present at the start of the trial this morning. Unfortunately, Lord Van Zeeks, no one is able to corroborate your claims. That's true. When the omnibus was first wheeled out, both the storage compartment and the skylight were shut. Accordingly, I'm afraid to say, we cannot establish with any certainty if this evidence is the result of tampering or not. Indeed, my lord. No doubt there was not a single person who saw fit to verify such things.
What do you think?
Sorry?
About the omnibus. Is there anything else unusual about the omnibus?
I might. My lord. Yes, counsel? There is one further inconsistency. A mark that surely could not have been present at the start of the trial. What?
What in the devil's name are you going to say now? If you dare to betray me, you little maggot, you'd better start watching your back.
Silence, McGilded. The court awaits the defense's clarification. This trial keeps swinging one way and then the other. I have no idea what's the truth and what's deception. What am I supposed to believe here? I shall have to ask you to elaborate, counsel. Where exactly is this alleged mark that you claim appeared at some point during the trial? I believe it's this.
Got it!
If we consider that the victim fell through the skylight onto the floor of the cabin, you would certainly expect to find signs of blood where he landed. But as far as I recall, this bloodstain on the cabin floor was not there when the omnibus was first brought into the courtroom.
Yeah, I actually did remember when I first saw it, I was like, wait a minute, how long has that been there? So, yeah.
Good lord! Yes, I do believe you're correct, counsel. Well said. Although, as advocate for the defense, one might say that was a very careless slip of the tongue. I believe that bloodstain on the floor is a decisive piece of evidence. But if the question is whether that evidence is genuine, or rather it was unlawfully fabricated by someone, I feel compelled to admit that there's at least a possibility that the evidence is fake. This time is over. Mr. McGilded? I've done everything I possibly can to cooperate with the court, but it is all over now. But you're the defendant! 'Tis over, I tell ye! Memory, recollection, what paper date they saw, 'tis all a nonsense! Facts are what counts. The fact is that bloodstain is there now. Well, and over the course of this desperate trial, long and extremely drawn out as it has been, that good-for-nothing Reaper at the Bailey has failed to present any decisive evidence at all. I'm scandalized, so I am. I thought better of Lord Van Zeeks. Well, my lord? I must concur with the defendant. The unaffirmed recollections of an individual cannot stand as evidence. At this moment in time, the particular bloodstain in question is very much in existence. And in the absence of any credible method by which to prove its alleged previous non-existence, I regret to say that it would be improper for this trial to continue.
Your lordship can't be serious!
Lord Van Zieks, what is your position?
The prosecution, my lord, has no further witnesses or evidence to present.
Very well. In that case, as I believe we have explored every possible avenue in this matter, I shall proceed to my adjudication. As a formality, I am of course obliged to confirm with the defense first. What formality?
As things stand at the moment, it would seem that Mr. McGilded will be found not guilty.
Yes.
Which would mean we've won.
Is that really the right outcome here? Is it really alright for the trial to come to an end now, with all these unexplained inconsistencies? Counsel for the defense, your closing statement, please. Yes, my lord. The defense believes... I am here in this courtroom today to advocate for the defense of my client, Mr. McGilded. However, at this moment in time, I cannot in all good conscience attest fully to the defendant's innocence. What are you saying, man? Without any question, there is no conclusive evidence to prove that the defendant is guilty. However, there is also no conclusive evidence to prove that he is innocent. Good gracious me! Order! Order! This is unprecedented behavior, counsel. A defense lawyer calling the accused innocence into question? Are you of sound mind?
Oh, 'twas a grand decision to appoint you as my lawyer, so it was a grand decision.
What?
I must say, I didn't expect quite an exciting spectacle at the end there, but still. Here, have this for your troubles. Your job here is done, fella. Some fine work you've done, so you have.
What do you mean?
'Tis just as the right honorable gentleman so succinctly put it before. The trial can't go on anymore. And your closing statement there was, how did he put it now, nothing more than a formality.
Okay. I really don't know what to make of all this. Was the evidence we've seen genuine, or was it fake?
His lordship would be fuming. Any unsightly rubbish should be disposed of promptly, as I said.
The sticking wretch always guilty of something. You, mock my words.
I feel terribly ashamed that I ever doubted that lovely man who gave us the lovely park.
Now that proceedings have unfolded in this way, I am compelled to declare a premature end to this trial. Furthermore, the court must accept the defendant's plea.
I thank you kindly, my lord.
I hereby pronounce the verdict of this court.
Objection!
But we still haven't determined if the bloodstain in the omnibus is genuine or not. We don't know if these witnesses are telling the truth or a pack of lies. We have no idea about the truth.
Lord Van Zieks, my lord.
The case made by the prosecution was flawed, plain and simple. If indeed the omnibus presented as evidence was tampered with, the prosecution is at fault for allowing such a disgraceful perversion of justice to take place.
My sincerest apologies, my lord.
Objection!
But wait! When we were evacuated from the courtroom, Lord Von Zieks ordered the evidence to be secured. I'm afraid the prosecution cannot shed responsibility in this matter. That's so unfair! The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment. What?!
Well, Lord Van Zieks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense.
Do you mean to tell me this has all been a grand waste of time?
'Tis the law of the land, my good man. If you'd like to pursue this matter further, you can always go ahead and try to change the law. Magnus McGilded. Good grief, you've more to say to me, have ye? Just one thing, a warning. This is far from over. We're certain to be looking forward to them.
I hereby pronounce the defendant, Mr. Magnus McGilded.
Yeah, but did Renosuke really earn that not guilty verdict? You have to... I mean... I don't know if he feels he did.
Well, I guess... I can't believe it. This is an outrage. They should have examined the evidence more. What are you talking about? The man's been cleared. He's innocent.
No,
Well, anyway. With the courtroom in pandemonium for the second time that day, the judge delivered his verdict, and my first ever trial in Great Britain came to an abrupt end, with the defendant being found not guilty, ostensibly a victory for us. February 18th, 5:14 p.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber.
that certainly was a long trial.
Yes, it was.
Your first ever trial on foreign soil and your first victory. It was a wonderful performance. My heartfelt congratulations.
And to you, Mrs. Otto, thank you for your assistance. I suppose we should be happy. The trouble is, we're still completely in the dark about what actually happened.
Well, we didn't have enough time.
But isn't it wrong? I mean, who is actually responsible for Mr. Mason's death? We don't even know that!
The sole aim of the defense is to obtain a verdict that exonerates the defendant. You carried out your duty to perfection.
Aye, that you did.
What do you want?
Mr. McGilded. And that girl is with him too.
Well, it seems the stories are true.
Oh, what stories?
About the 6 enormous fireworks that you'll be letting off when there's a verdict of not guilty. I'm sure you must have seen them now. Spectacular, wouldn't you say?
Yes, definitely.
I'd heard it was a sight to behold, and to be sure it was. And I've you to thank, I suppose, for having an opportunity to see it.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not sure I really did anything.
What on earth are you saying, fella? How did I walk out of there a free man then?
I don't think it was so much thanks to me as down to your planning.
You're a straight-talking fella, aren't you? I must say, you had me astray in the head there once or twice. But your hair young and headstrong. Ah, 'tis water under the bridge.
Congratulations, Mr. McGilded, on having your name cleared.
But nothing's resolved.
There's only one thing that matters to me.
Oh?
They've all seen that I didn't do that odious and absent deed. 'Tis grand, is it not?
I suppose it is.
Now, the fine fellows of Scotland Yard can take matters in hand and sort out any wee details. They'll see it for what it is. They'll get to the truth. I've absolute faith in them, so I have. After all, I do be providing a good number of the wages with all the taxes I pay.
Whoa! It's not that funny.
So then, as you agreed a full hand, 1,000 guineas for your troubles, fella.
Oh, no, I couldn't possibly accept that much.
I'll be whist. You're humble people, are you? You're from the east. Well, if you insist. But have this, still and all. You deserve a reward.
Mr. Magnus McGilded!
What?
Everything is ready, sir, if you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. Into the courtroom?
What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe.
I hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule.
Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection.
Sorry, what inspection?
They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself.
They're going to examine it again? Now?
Naturally, I'm under no obligation to take part in any more of this matter now. But as an upstanding member of London society, I do be doing my best to help where I can. 'Tis a gentleman's duty, so it is. So then, fare thee well. 'Twas an absolute pleasure meeting you. I hope you have a whale of a time while you're studying here in Great Britain.
And there he goes, a free man. Oh, I forgot she was here too.
Don't move!
Well, whereas I want to say, get a move on. She really does take forever to load that thing. Miss Lestrade, would you mind putting that thing down?
You're a grown-up,
Sorry?
and I hate all grown-ups.
Ah, there you are! Oh, hello.
Naughty, naughty, ran enough like that.
Is this some kind of picnic? Who's this little girl now?
I'm taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ha! Oh, do you want to play? You won't beat me.
Gah! Excuse me, but who are you?
Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine.
The inventor?
Well, normal smoke grenades are so dull, don't you agree? White, white, and more white. If you have to be shrouded in smoke, it could at least be a pretty color, I thought to myself.
Do we have to be shrouded in smoke, though? At all?
I just took my eyes off it for a moment whilst I was changing into a different onto a different omnibus, and she pinched it. Luckily, I lifted it with a telegraphic beacon.
Or fitted a what's it what? I have no idea what this girl is talking about.
Anyway, you're coming with me now, back to my laboratory. What? What for? To apologize, of course, silly. To my technician. What? You mean say sorry? You must say sorry when you've done something wrong. Surely an adult has taught you that before. An adult? Humph! I don't listen to no adults. Come along then, follow me. Fine, have it your way. Oh good, you see, I knew you'd want to do the right thing in the end.
I'm fairly sure that what she wants is not to get shot by that massive gun of yours.
We'll be leaving now then. Bye-bye. I'm so sorry for all the fuss.
And we're not going to get her name? She was a lively one.
Well, do you think perhaps we ought to be on our way now, too?
Yes, you're right. But where to?
Oh!
We haven't had time to find a place to stay. No sooner had we arrived in London than we had to rush here. All our traveling cases are still with the bailiff.
I was originally planning to spend today in search of lodgings.
But at this late hour in the day, I'm afraid we may be out of luck.
Don't worry, though. I have a plan. If the worst comes to the worst, I've heard of a lovely park where we could spend the night.
Please tell me you're not thinking of McGilded Park.
I know it may be a little chilly at this time of year, but our youthfulness will see us through.
I'm not so sure about that. I think a midwinter London night will freeze a young person's soul just as easily as an elderly one.
Oh dear, that doesn't sound agreeable.
Now I'm starting to regret turning Mr. McGilded down. That 1,000 guineas would have paid for a lovely warm room, or a mansion. And so, the trial to determine my worthiness for the study tour was over by the end of our first day in London. However, as we were soon to learn, there were more trying times ahead, just as the Reaper of the Bailey had warned. The case was far from over.
What's going on? Get the fire brigade! Water! Bring water, quick!
What the hell?
What? How did this happen? I don't know, sir. By the time I got here, it was already engulfed. No one was supposed to be allowed in here before we started investigating.
What?
No. Oh, good God. There's someone in there.
Oh, this can't be.
Okay, what just happened? Okay, well that's the end of this chapter, and... Okay! Yeah. Trophy earned, the Realm of the Reaper. For completion of episode 3 of the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, from its opening chapter. Well, any thoughts on the outcome of that chapter? I still don't know who it was that was in the... I'm wondering who it was that was in the thing that when it was burning. The omnibus. Anyway. But yeah, this is where I'm going to end the stream for tonight, so hope y'all enjoyed it tonight. A good question. I guess I'll find out next time, maybe? I don't know. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed tonight's stream, especially with how I badly I did at that one part. Oh, let's see. Episode 4 is The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. Interesting. But yeah, again, this is where we're going to end the stream for tonight, so hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, you can follow my YouTube channel link below to see my past streams, as well as my Twitter account to be notified when I go live or for other announcements. But yeah, I am definitely looking forward to seeing what happens next, so we'll find out Thursday. But yeah, for now, I'll be back tomorrow night to continue playing Ys Memories of Silseta. So hopefully I'll see you then, and if you stick around, I'll be dropping a host. But yeah, I'm really sorry about how I did earlier. I just kind of got overwhelmed, I guess. Anyway, let's see who to host tonight. Well, just a minute. Uh... Yeah, we're going to host Mr. JRPG, who is playing Crystar, or Crystar, however you pronounce it. So I hope you'll stick around for that, and I hope you all have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye.